Welcome to Season 3 of the Knack for Business podcast. Over 350 episodes strong, we're here to ignite your entrepreneurial spirit with fresh insights, networking gems, and creative strategies that elevate your game. Are you ready to discover what your Knack for Business truly is? Your hosts are Bernie Franz-Grote from Creative Insight and Wayne Pratt from Motivate You Inc.
Today's topic is lead smarter, not harder. How can you build a business that thrives without you? And that's what our guest is talking about, Oliver Wolf, co-founder and CEO of Beyond the Peak. Oliver is a dedicated family man, co-founder of the Beyond the Peak Inc., and the driving force behind the Conscious Sales team. With over 15 years of experience in sales, leadership, and management, Oliver is a master strategist known for his expertise in optimizing back-end operations for sustainable growth. His approach, business harmonization, blends systems and team synergy to empower visionary entrepreneurs, helping them scale beyond the seven figures while aligning business success with their ideal lifestyle and zone of genius. Oliver, glad to have you here today. Do you have a favorite quote you'd like to share?
Yeah, in terms of a favorite quote, it's just a short reminder more than anything, which is slow is smooth and smooth is fast. I find that really powerful, especially when working with visionaries who move very fast. And in this world of moving fast, it's important to be reminded that often the fastest way to get from A to B is to slow down, smoothen out, and actually make it to your destination.
In your background, you talk about business harmonization. What does that mean to you?
So for me, the visual I like to think about is a symphony. You have your conductor, your instruments, and your players, your music players. Your conductor, in this scenario relative to business, is your visionary. The conductor sets the vision of where we're going, how fast we're going, leading everyone to be unified. That's piece number one, vision, goal, mission. The second piece is your instruments, your business systems. They're what the people use to get closer to that vision, that mission, that unattainable goal, as Simon Sinek would say. And once we have the right systems in place, the right instruments to create the music we're trying to create, then you need the players, right? You need the right players who know how to play those instruments well and can follow along with the conductor to achieve that vision. The players are, of course, your team members. What I ultimately like to think about is when a symphony plays their music and they're doing what they're meant to be doing, you hear one sound. You don't hear a cacophony of different instruments and noise. You hear one beautiful, synchronized, symphonic sound. And so that's exactly what should be happening in your business. Does your business sound like a cacophony of mess and noise? Or does it sound like one sound? And one of my favorite tests for vision, by the way, which you can implement, is ask anyone on your team, what is our vision? What is our goal? What is our mission? If anyone doesn't know how to answer that, then you have misalignment. You won't be able to assign outcomes to your team, only tasks. That's a bigger conversation around how do you take yourself out of the business, but anyways.
So if you are getting tired of being a solopreneur, you're getting burned out, what are the steps and what are the pain points to know how you start implementing a team?
Yeah, this is a big one. I don't believe in solopreneurship. I think that's a fallacy. One of the biggest challenges, how do you go from solopreneur to first hire? First hire is the hardest. 0 to 1 is the hardest. 1 to 2 is the second hardest. From 2 on, it starts to become quote unquote easier. 0 to 1 is the hardest. I think there's a couple of different things that can be done. One is a time study where you literally track every 15 minutes of your day and ask yourself, of all the things that I've done and what I think my time is worth, could I hire someone to do it at half cost or less? So that's a very logical, pragmatic thing you could do. And in the world that we live in now, we have access to the Philippines, Africa, India, Pakistan for much more affordable work that to them is a fantastic wage. And so when you can isolate those things that are more affordable to outsource, especially overseas, that's a good time to do it. When I started Beyond the Peak, we hired 2 assistants immediately. If you're starting a business, you have enough work for someone else immediately. I promise you, the faster you get through getting your first hire, screwing that up, 90% chance you're going to screw it up, and then go again and finally find someone that you're like, oh my God, I literally can't see how I could do this without you, which will happen fast. That's when you keep going. So throw yourself in, trust me, you'll figure it out.
When you bring yourself into that fray, you have to have a set of instructions. Unless, of course, you have an apprentice with you. The blacksmith will see the master do the thing. Not that the virtual assistant is necessarily a total apprentice. They know how to do some things. They just have to know how you want things done.
Yep.
How do you stage that? How do you stage that on your first hire? What are the pieces that you have to bring together to make that? It might be a bit rocky at first, but once you get it right, how do you make those parts come together?
Yeah, totally. So if we're talking solopreneur first hire, you need a lot less than what I think a lot of people will think. But what I like to do is I start with what's called a role scorecard, which I'd be happy to share this as a resource with the audience if they want it. It basically outlines what's the role, what's the responsibilities, what's the intention for the first 30 days, 90 days, 6 months, what are the softwares they need to know, what are the expectations relative to time zone, amount of time, so forth, and then what are the tasks and responsibilities accordingly. If you have just that, you're already ahead of a majority of people. I've had this document on ads and had people reach out and say, this is the most advanced role description I've ever seen. Thank you so much for this. It's made it so clear for me what I was applying for. So that would be one thing that if you had just that clarity of role and you just take the time to document that. And what's great now is using ChatGPT, you can build that in seconds. Here's what I need. Here's my business. And then boom, it'll populate the whole thing, copy, paste, put it up, voila.
I find that interesting. Having come from the corporate space, you have your HR SOPs, then you have your finance SOPs, then you have your division SOPs, right? Each of them are interlaced. I also notice, and you see this a lot in the IT world and in the construction world too, scope creep. Oh, so when you're dealing with somebody, so there are things to balance out. Time, you need more people than one, right? 2, are you paying the right wage based on labor's done? 3, are there all the resources in place? How do you know that you're stretching it a bit too much or you've overextended?
Yeah, there's a massive difference between corporate and solopreneur in my responsibilities. I'll always have a degree or a clause that says your scope will creep, because in the beginning, these smaller businesses, there's so much you don't know. You ultimately need these early roles to be trailblazers more than maintainers. When you're starting out, you need trailblazers. You need people who are ready to get in the fire and figure it out and not have a whole bunch of structure and probably have scope creep. That's just gonna happen. Whereas if you've built out the role, it's now standard, you've got your SOPs, it's normalized, then you want to find a maintainer, someone who's not really looking to innovate. In fact, they find excitement and joy in it just being normalized, standardized.
So when an organization is looking to, going back to corporate side, they're looking to maintain status quo, everybody's happy, there's a few fluctuations, not a big deal. And then sometimes they're looking for a drastic change. And so they'll find a firebrand coming in. We see examples of that south of the border a lot. Sometimes you're going, yeah, that's really handy. And then other times you're going, that's not so handy. When do you decide? Is it a cultural shift that you're experiencing? And is it worth, I guess there's a whole host of other questions that can come out of that. But how do you decide which is a good fit?
The trailblazer or maintainer kind of thing? Yeah, so at the end of the day, it's how predictable is the thing you're hiring for, right? If it's very predictable, it's documented, it's SOP'd, you know that when you put X inputs, you get Y output, that's a maintainer. If it's not clear, it's a new endeavor or a new direction or something you aren't sure about, like you don't know what'll happen when you put X input, you need a trailblazer. You need someone who is going to be like, oh, wow, output Z came out or M came out. Well, I don't know what this is. Let's take another shot at that. A trailblazer gets excited and then takes another shot.
How do you go from doing the work to auditing the work?
How do you mean, sorry?
You're trying to get scalable. You're actually taking on that first person or two. You've done the work. You knew the quality, good or bad. What are the mindsets to auditing the work instead of doing the work?
Yeah, so this is one of the models I really like, what I call the 80-20 executive model. And it's not like the Pareto 80-20 rule. You want to get to the place as an exec or as a leader or anything like that. Like your goal is you want to be there for the first 10%, come up with the vision, the direction, the plan, all that stuff. You let the team handle 80%. They do all the development, the testing, and then you come in for that last 10% to review, see if there's any changes, tweaks, or anything that is not aligned to that first 10%. And if not, why not? For them to do those final touches, but basically finish the project. That's what we want to get to in terms of an outcome, right? Or, for example, one of the core values in Beyond the Peak is radical responsibility. Radical responsibility is defined by taking that radical responsibility of all the actions and inactions we're choosing to do or not to do. It actually does incentivize a degree of scope creep, but only in the sense of what I don't like, and you see this a lot in corporate, is that's not my job. My job is incredibly bad for the business in the long term, in my perspective. I believe in unified vision, and therefore I'm noticing this thing that would be aligned to our vision that we've all committed to achieving together. That's why we're here rowing this boat. I think this should be addressed. You don't want to step on someone's toes, but you have the responsibility to say to X manager or X person, hey, I noticed this thing. A lot of that 80% between the two 10% is about culture. What's your culture around review, testing, quality of work, submitting, all that kind of stuff?
Have you come across a company where you go, hi, I've identified this and it's not my job? Sometimes in the corporate world, you get reminded it's not your job, even though you go to do it. Your hand gets slapped. And I know that because I've been there, done that piece too.
For sure.
However, when you see that and you realize there has to be a transition, how long does it take typically? I know it can vary from person to person and size of company. Obviously, if you have 10,000 people, it might be a while. If it's like a team of 5 or 2, how long does it typically take? Reframe your perspective. Is it a month of coaching? Is it sometimes instant? How fast can they rejig themselves?
So it's massively subjective, not only to size of team, but type of team. If you did not create a culture whereby you attract people that are coachable, that behavior change will either never happen or take forever to happen. However, one of our core values is grow or die. Grow or die speaks into coachability. Everyone on our team actively asks for feedback on how they can be improved. I don't even need to give it to them. They ask for it. So for the team, we shift on a dime. It's very subjective.
I like that. That's a whole different view.
So tell me about the foundations you put in place even before you think you're ready. What are the pain points or milestones to put these things in place?
And again, ready to begin hiring kind of thing?
Sure.
Yeah. So again, I think there's 2 ways to go. There is the like, screw it, dive in, figure it out. And it's not that bad a move in the beginning. I would rather someone make a move too soon and figure it out than get stuck in analysis paralysis. There's never going to be a time where staying there, taking no action will be better than taking action, unless the best action truly is to take no action. Relative to this context though, usually inaction is just not going to be good for you. Now, if you did want to be a little bit more prepared, what I would recommend is just some degree of at least understanding your inputs and your outputs. If you put X in, you know you're going to get some form of Y out. If you have that, some degree of that clarity, and again, this comes from all kinds of things. One of the things that my team jokes about, I have a degree of OCD. I call it a superpower. When we hire new people, my team will have this conversation with the new people. They'll say, watch out for Oliver. He doesn't like it when you put a hyphen and there's not 2 spaces on each side. He needs to make sure that we all have the same header format in our Google Docs. It's header 1, header 2, header 3, header 4. Here's how we format this. Here's how we format that. Formatting is very important. It allows for ease of legibility, engagement of the reader, all these kinds of things. These kinds of things are important to me. And what I believe are the inputs that create outputs. Again, because I've seen it with clients say, wow, the way you guys are organized, the way you do your meetings is better than my massive corporate job, like all these kinds of things, because I have this standard of excellence. So again, it's what's your standard? What are the X inputs that create Y inputs, and have those well documented so that when you have someone come in, they have guidance. They know how to show up in your organization to your standard.
There has to be some tools that go well with this. Yeah, you can have dialogue, but unless you're sitting side by side, shoulder to shoulder, your customer might be talking to sales, supply, or the help desk, and you're not there. So what tools do you bring in? And then from the tools, what metrics do you get as feedback? What are you looking for?
And so for some more context, when you say tools, you mean relative to any tool within a business or tool for customer fulfillment and delivery, or?
We start off with the business itself. What tools should they have in place that help support the staff? But that it leads off into the customer fulfillment, because the one is the foundation of the next.
Yep. It depends on the business, but you need your form of document management, whether that's Google Drive or something like Notion, some platform where you're saving your SOPs, your documentation. Then you need some, again, Zoom, Google Meet, Teams. These are standard communication platform. Like we use Slack. Again, maybe that's Teams, something of that nature. There's ultimately a lot of tools and types of tools. We're in a very online software world now. It's impossible to have a business without software, or at least if you want a fighting chance. It's less about exactly what tool you have and more about two things. One, what's needed to get the output at the most affordable input, like min-max or operational efficiency. Then you always have to remember the human element. Humans aren't operationally efficient beings. We need things that are nice looking, nice feeling. They need to connect well and feel well. So there's always this balance of what's most efficient and what's most effective. Efficient is the system side. It's this tool integrates so well with this tool. Look how well it integrates. But then effective is they integrate well, but I hate that tool. It sucks to talk through. I don't want this tool. So then you have to make your decision. Very subjective.
We've been there, actually. Come to think of it.
There you go.
When do you know that you could benefit from a fractional COO?
Yeah, good question. So the pain I like to identify when it comes to that, I've played as a fractional CEO for multiple organizations. Generally, the pain on a high level is, does it feel like growing stresses you out? Does scaling feel like a stressful idea? Are you looking at, oh my God, I'm doing 5 million now, and if I did 10 million, I would die. If you're having these fears of growth, it's because you have operational issues. A fractional CEO can come in and say, this is what's not scalable. This is why when you do more revenue, you do more stress, you do more pain, you do more issues. To me, one of the best indicators is, does growth stress you out?
Is the long game how you're going to retire, or how the business is going to become someone else's baby? When you're talking to an owner and they're going to help me, is it just tweak my sales component and thank you very much? Or is it more about the entire space? Because we touched on culture, which permeates everything. Is it viable to either be carried on from your offspring, your team moving it forward and you sell off the shares, or you're selling the business? How does that come together?
Yeah. So it's another one of these subjective questions, subjective answers on a high level. The first rule of sales is you need to be a great listener. And to be a great listener, you need to be great at asking questions. When you're having these conversations, like, is it for sale? Is it for this? Is it for that? We got to discover that, right? That's step number one. Why are we here? What are you trying to do? What's your vision, your dream? What's your desires? Are you looking to sip Mai Tais on a beach? That's a totally different conversation than if you're like, I want to build a freaking empire that is multi-generational wealth to my great-grandchildren's children. That is a very different conversation, right? So that's number one. We need to find out. Then from there, we can determine what needs to happen. If, for example, we are looking to Mai Tais on a beach, we want to stand her up to sell. We want to sell this bad boy. That's going to be a matter of creating scalable systems that gets proper EBITDA and multipliers and all that kind of fun stuff. And it's just a different conversation. Generational wealth, then you're looking for long-term sustainability. One of the things I like to think about is, even if you're not intending to sell, you should still build your business in a way that it would be sellable. Because a sellable business is a good business. It's a good filter to ask yourself, in the state my business is now, would someone actually come in and feel good to buy it? If not, then we have opportunities here, lots of opportunities.
What are the habits, in your opinion, of high performers?
There's a lot of dogma out there about what is a high performer. What I've come to find, I spoke with you guys about this before, I'm much of a champion mindset. At the beginning of my success was me being committed to being a champion. I just wanted to be number one. I wanted to break records. I wanted to do everything I possibly could to be the best. I became a high performer. I broke records. I worked in different franchise businesses, different sales organizations, and I either broke records or placed first in sales competitions over and over again. So arguably, I know how to be a high performer, and I studied the space to a degree. what I've found is it's very subjective. Some people need to wake up and meditate, journal. I need to do some exercise. Then I need to do my work. Then I need to do this. Then I need to do that. Other people, honestly, like myself, I'm good to get right into it. I can wake up and crush work first thing in the morning, see the sun. And what I've come to find is it's really about building. You need to have the self-awareness to check in on your energetics and what truly works for you. Try a lot of different things. See what brings you energy, excitement, the components of high performance. You need good energy. You need good focus. You need the ability to be responsible. There's these things that are natural components of high performance, but how you get those things, that's different from person to person.
So if you could give one piece of advice to an entrepreneur who feels trapped right now, what would that one piece be?
Find a mentor, for sure. By far, I think that's one of the biggest hacks in life, is to find someone who is willing to pour into you, whether you pay for them or not. If you're feeling stuck, a mentor will always have that third perspective and experience to be able to say, oh, I've been there. Here's how I got out of it. Or here's how I could see you getting out of it. So mentor, for sure.
Interestingly enough, I've noticed that some people, again, whether you're in corporate world or not, and usually it's more grinds the gears on the corporate side for some people, your lifestyle, whether it's that Mai Tai on the beach, I want to go on a road trip, or I just want to do something and be able to shift the gears. How do you find that balance when you're talking to a business owner? What's your lifestyle like? Do you find out what the lifestyle is like, or the lifestyle they want to lead? And is it fairy tale-ish for them? I wouldn't mind owning a cottage. But the reality would be you have to maintain it if you want to own it. How do you find that? Do you help encourage that? Do you provide advice in that space?
Yeah. So at the end of the day, to work with someone, you need to understand a couple things. One, what's their desire? Where do they want to go? What's their pain, or where are they now? And what's the bridge needed to get there? Those are the three elements needed to determine if you're the right person to support someone else. Now, the degree of intimacy in that conversation depends. So again, you mentioned, do you help with that? For example, my circle of friends are all entrepreneurs. We have opportunities to help each other out and work with each other. Long story short, we're very intimate. And as a result though, when one of my friends will say, hey, I want to own a boat. This is a really good example. You mentioned the cottage, right? There's a lot of maintenance in a boat. The idea of a boat's nice. I can go out on the water. I can take my friends. I can party. But you're right. It's also quite a hassle and a money sucker. Why not just rent one? I'll have that conversation with them accordingly. If I'm really not intimate with them, I don't have much of a relationship, and it just wouldn't make sense to have that conversation. Maybe this person is really committed to wanting to have a boat. They just really want it. And it's not my role to navigate that with them. Maybe the rapport is there, maybe the relationship there, then sure, yes, I will. But if not, if this is what excites them, if this is what motivates them to take action and to do what it takes to get from pain to desire, then yeah, let's do it. And here's what I've found is so many times goals are about being, if I'm going the direction of getting that boat and I achieve what I need to get that boat, maybe I get there and I'm like, you know what, I don't really want that boat, but I've got what I need to get a thing I actually want. I'd rather have something to go directionally towards that is positive, right? That will require positive inputs and positive outputs to eventually make a decision on what we're going to do with it once we get there.
Beyond the metaphor, was there an actual physical peak? Was there actually looking in a field mountain once upon a time? And why go behind the peak? If you're at the peak, why go beyond it?
That's too funny. So there's a full-on story to this, and there is a peak, 100%. We're gonna have a podcast for this. The story there is my partner and I. My partner's name is David. We knew we wanted to do business together. We've been best friends forever. He's the godfather to my children. We've been to each other's weddings, all the things, right? And we're like, okay, we want to do something. We have enough experience. Let's go. So we went on a hike, and it wasn't like a full trip, just to have some opportunity of visioning. And as a result, we had a great experience. All these things are happening. And then by the time we were done and we left, one of the biggest outcomes we wanted was a name for our business. And we hadn't come up with one. As we're coming down, we reflected on our day. We went to the peak of this mountain and wanted to find a place, but there was a lot of people around. There was like 20, 30 people around. Where we originally thought we wanted to achieve this peak is not the place. It's not where we want to actually be. So we had to go beyond the peak. And so we went beyond the peak to find what we really did want, need, and desire. and had an amazing experience. And then after that came back down thereafter. So then we're like, whoa, then we really start to reflect on things in general. Like I think about Olympians, right? Olympians have this peak that they chase, number one in the world in skiing or whatever. And we see it time and time again that a Olympian will achieve that goal and then be immediately depressed thereafter. They've sacrificed everything for that one peak. And once they achieve it, they question reality. Life beyond the peak. It's not about these goals we hit. It's about what happens after. What happens around this thing? What are we doing that makes it worth going for this peak? What is beyond the peak? And so that's how we came with it, with this idea and this name.
Yeah, but you're right. At the end of the day, okay, we did it. Now what? Now what? And having that satisfaction or the next step. When you're engaging with companies, are you just doing it in the nation's capital? Are you national, North American, global? What's your range?
I'm completely global. I just want to help people who are willing to be helped on the things that I'm able to help with. I don't care where you're from, where you're doing, all that kind of stuff. As long as I'm like the values are aligned, what you're doing is something that actually is good for the world, I will help.
How do we reach you?
I'm most active on Facebook, Oliver Wolf. Otherwise, there's also my email if you want to go direct to Oliver Wolf at thewolfsyndicate.com. Those are the best areas.
It's been a great interview. I want to say thank you to Oliver Wolf, my co-host Wayne Pratt, and you, the Knack for Business listeners. If you're trying to figure out your sales, your strategy, maybe even more than just the strategy of your sales, what happens when you get past that peak and you want to grow into the next stage? Reach out to Oliver.
To reach the podcast hosts, email them at info@creativeinsight.com or by the website creativeinsight.com, spelled KREATINSIHT.com. To reach Wayne at his email, wayne@motive8u.ca, that is MOTIVE, the numeral 8 and the letter u.ca, or his website motive8u.ca. If you would like to be a guest on this podcast and share your knowledge, let us know. We would also appreciate your feedback on the content or format. Check the show notes for more details. For these podcasts, we like to acknowledge the support and thanks to the following people: Carl Richards from Podcast Solutions Made Simple, a renowned podcast expert; Fred Crouch, who is the Property Wizard podcaster, where Bernie is a co-host; Jovan Strika from @Hive, a co-working space that is more than just a space; then Melanie Weber, Bernie's invaluable business partner; and Wayne Pratt from Motivate You Inc., who serves as both a coach and co-host of these podcasts. Disclaimer. Please note that the Knack for Business podcast episodes are meant solely for educational and general informational purposes. The information and opinions contained within are not intended to be professional advice on any subject matter. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed by the participants are their own personal beliefs and do not represent the views of the podcast hosts or any affiliated organizations. It is important to note that this podcast is not a replacement for consulting with certified experts in your area who possess knowledge of your unique situation. The hosts of the podcast, along with any participants or affiliated groups, do not take responsibility for any actions taken or not taken based on the information presented in this episode. It is highly recommended that individuals seek guidance from their own personal advisors in fields such as accounting, law, or other pertinent areas prior to undertaking any actions or making decisions that may impact their financial, legal, or other aspects of life.